Greetings, Foo listeners. This is Leaf Star, and thanks for listening to episode 2 of the TheFooStories podcast. We have a very long show this week, and thanks to my brother's alarm clock battery, I'm able to post it this week. Now, we have 4 stories to read this week. First, our series story, followed by 3 new ones. Then will be the responses from the question of the week and this week's member of the week. It's going to be a long show, so let's get started. Our first story this week is from member Brightclan. Read the first chapter of her book, Living an Outcast, last week. This week we'll read chapter 2, entitled Welcome. Who is this strange wolf that pulled out from behind this rock, and what will he do to Jade? Here we go. He seemed very mad as he walked slowly toward me. "That rabbit was mine," he shouted. "I saw it first, so give it to me." You may have seen it first, but your sloppy footwork alerted the rabbit of your presence. If it weren't for me, it would still be alive and hopping away. Stop yelling. You'll let the rest of the prey know where we are, Jade whispered. He rolled his blue eyes and started walking away. They were a wonderful blue, like the rivers that flowed in Jade's old home. "Wait!" she called to him. "I think this rabbit is big enough for the both of us." He shrugged and started to walk back over. "My name's Fang," he said. Jade liked that name. It rolled off the tongue well, and they shared the rabbit in silence. When they were done, they got up. "Want to come to my den? I mean, if we're the only 2 wolves out here, it might be a good idea to get to know each other," Jade suggested. The wolf shrugged and started leading the way back to her den. And despite his nonchalant attitude, Jade could tell he was memorizing the way and checking for any possible danger she might be leading him into. Now, of course, she wasn't. "We're here," Jade said when they had come to her well-hidden den. She lived by a small oasis, and had found a small cave where she made her den. She had used moss to cover the entrance, so she could hide the elements and any unwanted visitors from her den. "Welcome to my home," Jade said to him. End of chapter 2. Our second story this week comes from Shamu. You can find the link to their profile in the show notes, along with links to all of the other authors for today. Here's chapter 1 of their story. "I pet Shiitake one last time, then pecked and kissed on his nose. Shiitake was a 9-ton killer whale at SeaWorld I had trusted for such a long time. I'll miss you." I sighed and wrapped my arms around him for a hug. A single tear dripped out of my eyes and down my cheek. I was going on vacation for a week to Missouri, and Shiitake was no cat or dog. I couldn't take him with you like you would a cat or a dog. He was so big, and he needed salt water. "Come on!" yelled my mom. Shiitake nudged me, knowing I needed to go. I sniffed and wiped the tear away. I ran up and grabbed a towel from my mom. I had my knees wet and my hair was dripping. "I know you're sad, but Shiitake will be fine." I dried my knees and shook my head. I stopped and stared at her. "But I don't want to leave him." But we drove off without Shiitake, and I was crying the whole way there. I know the SeaWorld people would care for him, but my Shiitake was highly scared of them. He once killed a trainer of fear, and he was a little wimpish about things. My mom and dad talked, and were about to where we were going and what they would do. I sighed and scooted down my seat. It was going to be one long ride. Our next story for today comes from member Teddy Rosa, with the idea by our friend Brightclan. It's based on the Warrior series by Aaron Hunter. Teddy Rosa has written a number of stories like this, and we will feature more of them in the future. She has a link to her topic where you can request a story and she'll write it for you, as long as it's a warrior story, of course. You can find the link in the show notes below. Here is the first story. How long do you think this is going to last? Miss Eagle looked over her shoulder. She had barely heard her clanmates yowl because of the fierce wind. A few tail lengths away, she made out the shape of Echo Wind. The tabby she-cat's gray fur had been completely covered in snow. The small warrior shivered and stared at Miss Eagle with round green eyes. Miss Eagle hurried to her side and pressed her long brown pelt against her for warmth. Echo Wind's mouth opened, but Miss Eagle couldn't make out her words. These mountains aren't very good cover from the snow. A large silvery gray pelt bounded towards them. Miss Eagle greeted her with a slight nod. How do you usually get out of it, Snow Whisper? She asked. The silvery cat narrowed her eyes and her whiskers twitching in amusement. You forest cats are so useless in these mountains, she teased. Miss Eagle glared at the Mountain Clan warrior. She felt Echo Wind's body quivering next to her. The young warrior was far too small and weak to be out in this weather. Please take us to your camp, she shouted. Snow Whisper thought for a moment and nodded. I suppose it would be a little bit cruel to leave you to freeze to death out here. Our final story this week comes from Queen Random. It's called New School Year, New Ashley. We'll be featuring this story in 3 sections, so tune in next week for the next part. Here's part 1 of New School Year, New Ashley. Bleep, 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 beep. Ashley slapped her alarm clock. She opened her eyes, looked over at her bedroom doorway, and saw her mother standing there with a pink and white dress in her hand. Come on, get up, it's your first day of middle school. Ashley looked at her mom with a disgusted look on her face. What is that? Ashley said to her mom. Do you like it? It used to be mine when I was in middle school. I thought that you could wear it today. Mom, I will never wear... She stopped herself. Mom, I already picked out something else, so maybe another day, okay? Now get out, I have to get ready. Ashley's mom started walking out of her daughter's room. Ashley jumped out of her bed and put on a hot pink shirt, put on some skinny jeans, and threw on her pink and black Converse. She ran down the stairs to find her breakfast waiting on the table for her. She scarfed down her eggs and shoved the last piece of toast in her mouth. Ashley ran out the door to find the bus just pulling up to her house. She heard her best friend, Sarah, yell out the window to her. Hey, Ashley! Ashley climbed up the bus steps and sat next to Sarah. When they pulled up to Seaside Middle School, Ashley and Sarah hopped off the bus, went inside, and walked over to find their lockers, right next to each other and near their homeroom class. Ashley suddenly saw Drake walking over to the locker next to hers. He opened it, and Ashley looked over to Sarah and smiled. Hi, are you two new? Ashley got nervous. Yeah, we're in 6th grade, so what grade are you in? Ashley tried to sound cool, but it just spilled out like a little kid. You're talking to the most popular guy in Seaside Middle School, and you just ruined it, Ashley said to herself. Thanks to all the members for those great stories. Remember, you can send in your stories to us too. Just post your story in our forum, which you can find the links in the message below or on our regular channel. You can also send them to TheFooStories@yahoo.com. Start writing. Next, the question of the day. Last week's question was, if you could, would you rather be a cat or a dog? The choice that got the most responses was cat. Now, personally, I would rather be a dog, because I think it would be pretty fun to play catch and be so loved by every person that walks by your house. But then again, it would be pretty awesome to sleep all day and purr all night. I don't know. Anyway, this week's question of the day is, if you could have a free trip to one of the following places, which would it be? Paris, France, Disney World in Orlando, Florida, or Tokyo, Japan? Remember that everything is paid on this trip, so you don't have to worry about any thoughts of money. Just pick the city you would rather go to. Remember, you can either answer on our forum or in the comment section below. Also, send in your questions for the question of the day. You can also post those on our forum or send me, LeafStar, a message. Finally, our last part, the member of the week. This week's member of the week is, drumroll please, this week's winner is PetPerson66. Like always, I drew the name out of a hat, and if you entered this week, your name will stay in the hat until you are chosen. Congratulations, PetPerson66. You'll receive a gift as a prize soon. Remember to enter for next week's member of the week. As always, thanks for listening. Tune in next Sunday for more stories, the next member of the week, and the new question. We'll also be having contests in the time to come, so start giving us your ideas for those on our forum as well. This is LeafStar, closing the book.